Hi everyone and welcome to Argentine Asado. Today we are going to be cooking a sweetbread risotto. In this cooking experience we are going to be doing the traditional Argentine mollejas. Mollejas are sweetbread and they are the gland of the cow. And in today's episode we're going to be doing an amazing risotto where we're going to be having our sweetbread, we're going to have some whole grain or brown rice, we're going to be having some parsley, some red pepper, green pepper, some onions, some garlic, and of course we're going to be garnishing this with some cheese once the risotto is cooked. So stay for the recipe, stay for the experience, and I hope you enjoy this Argentine Asado vlog. Now, if you guys have any ideas or any recipes or any comments, please drop them here in the comment section below. I'd love to bring you an Argentine experience that you would like to see. Okay, for the Argentine sweetbread risotto, what we have of course is some fresh sweetbread. We have some red pepper. We're gonna have some green pepper as well. We have some onion that we're obviously gonna dice up. We have some fresh garlic. We have some parsley, and we also have some brown rice or whole grain rice. And we also have some lentils, which I didn't mention before. And the reason why I bring the lentils in is because sweetbread actually doesn't have a ton of protein. It has a lot of fat, and I would like to be able to add some more protein to the risotto today. So that's why I'm going to do some lentils with the risotto, along with the sweetbread and today's vegetables. And there's one more vegetable I don't have here, but I'm going to be dicing up really thinly some tomatoes. So stay tuned. Okay guys, so first we're going to start with dicing the onion, the red pepper, and the parsley. And once we're done with that, we're going to add in some very finely diced fresh garlic and some tomatoes. Guys, as you can see, I've got my sweetbread as fresh as possible. Now this one here is a little bit whiter, this means it has more fat. And this one here, which looks more like a chicken breast, is probably the best of the three. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away any excess fat that I don't want. I'm going to dice it up into 1-inch slices. So the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to get these sweetbreads and I'm going to start to dice them up again into 1-inch or 3/4 of an inch slices. Now there is going to be some fat on these and probably some excessive fat, so I'm going to look at the bits that have excessive fat and I'm going to remove them because that's going to be obviously too fatty for the risotto. Now this one here, as you can see, is actually a lot better, and this one here is going to be is ideally what you should be using is what we call molleja de corazón, which means the heart of the sweetbread. Okay guys, so for my stock, I would actually generally use some chicken stock or some beef stock. But for today, because we're going to be using white wine, and white wine has a lot of body and it's going to be obviously infused into the brown rice and the sweetbread, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take first this is some sweet chili flakes. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon. Then I'm going to grab some coriander. I'm going to put 1/2 teaspoon. And then I'm going to grab some more sweet chili, and this is more of this is more grinded, so this is actually going to have high absorption than the sweet chili flakes. And then lastly, I'm going to grab some basil. Oh, that wasn't meant to happen. And this is going to be 2 teaspoons. Okay. Now once I'm done with that, the trick here is to get warm water and make sure it's warm. Don't mix cold water with spices ever when you're doing a risotto. And I'm going to mix in the warm water, and this is going to be around 250 to 300 milligrams of water. And I'm going to mix it in and then slowly stir it. And this is going to be my stock for my risotto. I'm going to be adding white wine as well today, but this is going to be the stock. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you how I add it to the risotto later. So as you can see, guys, I'm just stirring in our stock. Of course, this doesn't have any bone broth or any chicken broth, but this is for me, the best option for your sweetbread risotto. Okay guys, so the first thing I did before I started dicing up the vegetables was I put my rice and lentils into the boiling water for around 10 to 15 minutes. Now the idea is that you can preheat or pre-boil your lentils and your brown rice before putting them into risotto. Now I know you're gonna say, hey, it's not a risotto if you pre-boil your brown rice and your lentils, but the reality is if you overdo your lentils and your rice on the risotto or in the risotto pan, it's not going to be as good as if you pre-cook it and let what's left absorb the taste of your sweetbread and obviously the stock that you're adding. So I've pre-cooked it here for about 10 to 12 minutes and then I'm going to take it to the risotto. Okay guys, so as always we are doing our risotto, our sweetbread risotto here in my favorite place, which is my quincho, which is basically my barbecue house. In my grilling space, I'm going to be preparing the risotto. So let's talk a little bit about what we're gonna do first. So as you can see, as always, I've prepared my fire, but today we're gonna be doing something different. Instead of worrying about coals, we are gonna take that fire and we are gonna put it under this disc or this dish, which in Spanish is known as a disco. And these discos basically is an iron dish which this steel that has been used here most likely has been used in some agricultural machinery, and they repurpose it with a steel, I don't know, this would be like 3 or 4 inches deep. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting all of the ingredients here in the disco. And why this is really, really special for us, it comes with a lid that you can get made, which is a lid that will go on the top. But why this is so special for us is because supposedly the legend goes is that because this has been used in the ground for tilling the ground, often as a plow, the taste really comes through in the steel in the cooking process. So these are used for doing lots of different cooking methods, and I'll show you guys different foods that we do here. But for today, excuse me, that was my dog. But for today, what we're going to be doing is the sweetbread in the disco, in the disc as we call it, and this will be where we'll be doing our risotto. Okay, so the first thing I always do is I light the fire. As you can see, I've laid all the kindling and I've lit the fire. And what I'm going to do is today I'm going to be moving the actual burning pieces of kindling under the disco or under the disc, which is what we're going to be using for the sweetbread risotto. Now what makes this very interesting is traditionally I'm moving the coals from under the fire, under the grill. As you guys are, if you're following me here on the channel, you notice that's the way we cook here in Argentina. But today I'm actually going to be moving the kindling that is burning to create a smaller fire under the grill. And the reason I have my second fire or my primary fire is because if you don't have this, often if you want to regulate or drop the heat under the grill, you just start removing any of the embers or kindling that is alight. When you don't have a first fire, it means that you haven't got a source of heat. So it's very important to have one fire. As you can see here, it started nicely, and another fire which is going to be under the disc, which is where we're going to be cooking our risotto. Okay guys, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to take some of the fire and I'm going to put it, a couple of pieces of kindling under the disco or under the disc, and this is going to heat up. I'll give it 3 or 4 minutes to heat up, and then we're going to put the sweetbread or the molleja directly into the heated pan. We're not going to use any oil, any butter, or any anti-stick. The reason being is the sweetbread has a lot of fat, and that is gonna help us move the sweetbread around and start to create some juices. It's gonna help the vegetables when they go in not to stick. So remember, don't put any fat or any butter into your disc. Just put your sweetbread in and start moving it around, and that will help your vegetables and everything else we're gonna put in not to stick. Okay guys, so what I'm doing is I'm moving these pieces of wood under the disc, and the idea is that we keep the main fire going, and this second fire that I'm creating under the disc is the one that we're gonna use to cook our risotto. I always believe the more fires you have, the better. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've diced up this sweetbread, and I'm now going to take the sweetbread and I am going to put it on the heated pan. And just a quick reminder, I haven't put any oils or used any butter on this pan. I'm just going to let the fat from the sweetbread help and stop the vegetables and obviously everything else not sticking to the pan or the disco. So I have now put all of the sweetbread into the disco, and I'm going to leave it there for around 10 to 15 minutes. And basically what we want to do is golden up both sides of your sliced up sweetbread or molleja before you put in any of the vegetables or the rice. So the first thing you're going to do in your risotto is get your sweetbread into the pan and golden it up on each side for around 10 minutes. This is going to help pre-cook and get the fats flowing from the molleja or the sweetbread before you put anything else into the pan. And as you can see here, we have our brown rice and lentils that has been pre-cooked. And then we have our diced up cherry tomatoes. We have our garlic and red and green pepper. We have our cheese that we'll put on the top after, and obviously our diced onion. And then lastly, we have this stock which we made earlier today. That has been sitting for around 4 hours. This is going to help obviously for the water to absorb the taste of the sweet pepper, the chili, the coriander and the basil. Once the sweetbread has been cooking for 10 or 15 minutes, you'll notice it will start to turn golden. Now this is the right time to start putting in your vegetables and your rice. Now as you can see, I've kept this fire pretty consistent for the last 15 minutes, and you'll notice there's a lot of fat that's come out from the sweetbread. Now if you want, you can soak that up, but I would recommend that you leave it in. Now we're going to take the vegetables and we're going to put them and mix them in with the sweetbread, and then we'll add our rice, and then we'll start to add our white wine, and finally we'll add our stock. Okay guys, so the first thing I'm going to put in is our onion. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in, mix it around a bit. Okay. The second thing I'm going to add is my garlic and my pepper. You'll notice that I've diced these really, really small. This actually helps, just means that you're cooking for less time. And lastly, I'm going to add my diced cherry tomatoes and parsley. We've put our vegetables in with the sweetbread. The sweetbread had been cooking around for 15 minutes. It got to that beautiful golden color, and then we added the vegetables. We're gonna wait for around 5-10 minutes for those vegetables to really start to heat up. And then we're gonna start to add in our wine. Now I have a Chardonnay. You can use whatever you really wanna use, but I prefer wines that aren't too sweet, especially if it's gonna go in the pan with the rest of the food, because if it's just too sweet, it's going to absorb and you're going to get this sweet taste, which personally for a risotto I don't like. So I have here an organic, quite intermediate to cheaper end wine. You don't have to spend a lot of money on the wine you're going to put in the pan, because most of the alcohol is going to be evaporated anyway. Save that for after. I'm going to remove the cork, and we are going to enjoy the sound of the white wine going in to the disco. Ready? Let's go. now that I've put the wine in the risotto, we're just gonna mix this in and we're gonna give it around 15 minutes to evaporate. And then when that's evaporated, we're gonna do another 15 minutes. And that's gonna be, first our wine's gonna go in before we put in our stock. We're gonna put our stock in at the end. And the reason being is that the wine is gonna do a lot of the wine is gonna establish the taste, and then we're gonna put in our stock at the end. Okay guys, so after around 10 minutes of just the vegetables being with the sweetbread, I am now gonna take my rice and lentils, which I pre-cooked, and put them in with everything else. Now the reason I waited for a bit is because the lentils and the rice are gonna absorb a lot of the wine and the stock that we put in now. And the reason being that I waited is because I wanted the vegetables to really get in and get their taste into the sweetbread. So I've put all of the rice in the disco, and I have let the first batch of white wine absorb as much as possible. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the second lot of white wine in, so that's around 10 to 15 minutes after the first part, and then finally I'm going to add in the stock. I've had the rice in for around 8 to 10 minutes, and I'm going to add the second part of white wine. Now the trick here is to leave a small amount at the end, because that's what we're going to put on just before we actually serve the risotto. So I'm going to leave a little bit of white wine, and then in a few minutes I'm going to add in my stock. Okay guys, so I've put the second lot of wine on around 15 to 20 minutes ago, and now I'm going to be adding the stock. So here goes. And this is around 250 ml of stock. Now you can do a little bit more if you want, but because I pre-cooked the rice, it isn't necessary for me actually to do two bowls of stock. So now I'm going to mix that in a bit, and we're going to leave that for around another 20 minutes for it to fully absorb. And then the last stage of our risotto is we are going to be adding in the last bit of wine and some lemon juice, and then we're going to add in our cheese, and then we're going to serve it. We are 1 hour and 15 minutes into our risotto, and we have, since we put in the stock, it's been around 20 minutes. So what we're going to do now is we are going to give this a bit of a mix up, and then we're going to add cheese and a little bit of lemon juice. Now the reason I give it that lemon is just I like that extra tanginess, so you don't have to add lemon, but I'm going to add my lemon, and then I'm going to add my cheese. And then I'm going to let it all melt, and we are going to take the risotto and serve it and see what it's like. Okay guys, so I've taken the risotto, sweetbread risotto, off the fire, and I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice. Because we put our pepper and salt and garlic and all of these really predominant tastes, through the cooking process, some of those tastes can get lost. So one of the things you can do at the end is just add a little bit of lemon, and it helps give it that beautiful tangy taste at the end. And then lastly, I'm going to take my cheese, I'm going to add lots of cheese, and then what I end up doing is stirring the cheese in a little bit so it melts before serving. And this is going to taste absolutely awesome. Okay. As you can see, I'm going to melt this cheese, get the cheese melted, and then I'm going to serve. Okay, I've got a bit of sweetbread.